Today we have an update on Terrifier 3 and the Creep Tapes, as well as a review of The Front Room, Speak No Evil, and Fabio Frizzi's live performance of the zombie score. This is a weird one, folks. Now let's get into it. Hey everybody, I'm Killjoy Jake, and instead of having friends, I have horror movies. Kicking off today's update video, I want to dive into a very special event I was able to see just a few nights ago. It was the composer's cut of Zombie from 1979, my all-time favorite in the undead subgenre, and from Italian filmmaker Lucio Fulci. It's as cheesy as it is gore-heavy, with multiple shocking moments and terrifying creatures. Its slow approach to scares, accompanied by that dreadful score, makes it something incredible, especially in my eyes. The film also features my favorite horror movie score ever, originally written by Fabio Frizzi, who performed it live in Cleveland, Ohio just a few nights ago. Massive shout out to Alex DiVincenzo from Bloody Disgusting for writing an article on this, otherwise I would not have known about it at all. If you're a fan of Zombie, I highly recommend checking this out, as they're only halfway through the tour and more dates are still yet to come in different cities around the United States. Frizzi doesn't just play the score over the movie either. There are added tracks and instruments that I particularly enjoyed that only enhance the experience. It felt like watching this now 45-year-old film for the first time all over again. There's a heavier focus on a prog metal sounding guitar that makes a few scenes extra evil and overwhelming. It felt like the zombies were in the room with us. Also, if you're a fan of other Fulci frights like The Beyond or City of the Living Dead, they end the set with a medley of tunes from multiple other movies in his catalog. Some that I didn't even recognize but were creepy nonetheless. It's great to see Fabio still have so much energy playing the synth, jamming on the acoustic guitar, and even composing the other band members at times. It was an experience that filled my zombie-loving heart with so much joy. There are still many shows left on the docket, with the next one being performed in Indianapolis on Friday the 13th. Tonight! Any fans of this film should not miss this performance from an underrated maestro. Get tickets now or be turned into one of the zombies. Ooh! Coming from the brothers of Robert Eggers, Max and Sam Eggers, is A24's The Front Room. It's a film that goes places that I simply wasn't expecting sitting in a nearly empty theater at 3 o'clock this past Tuesday. I don't even know where to start with this one besides the plot description. The Front Room is described as everything goes to hell for newly pregnant Belinda after her mother-in-law moves in. As the diabolical guest tries to get her claws on the child, Belinda must draw the line somewhere. Now, that plot description doesn't cover the bases of how many times you have to watch the absolutely wonderful Brandy Norwood clean up her stepmother-in-law's piss and shit, which is the majority of the film. I'm not even remotely kidding. It takes a lot to gross me out as someone who casually enjoys a viewing of Terrifier 2 before bed sometimes, but this one had me dry heaving. While the plot is so confused that the story is rarely effective, the gross out moments are easily its strongest element. It makes sense now why The Lighthouse is so vile, as it was co-written by Max Eggers. If I had to guess, these moments in this film were certainly from him. That definitely gets some points for me, even if it consumes the movie at a certain point. The performances are also great from both Brandy and Catherine Hunter. I'm so glad to see Brandy return to horror since her appearance in the 1998 sequel, I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. She's an excellent part of that campy film, as she is here too. I genuinely felt bad for her despite some questionable choices from her fictional husband in this movie that did not land for me at all. Again, a very confused and unfocused script here that could not keep certain aspects consistent with its characters. Solange is the best part of this movie though, and the sole reason why I need to buy it on 4K as soon as it comes out. Some of the crazy shit that comes out of her mouth with that thick southern accent is so funny it had me in tears. As she continues her incontinence in her thankfully rubber-sheeted cot, she repeats the phrase M-E-S-S mess that has instantly become a part of my vernacular. That is so darkly funny to me. I need to force my friends to watch this ass disaster as soon as possible. I won't get too deep into spoilers with this review, but there are moments that try to force some sort of supernatural element that neither advances the plot or actually goes anywhere. It feels like the Egger brothers were trying to make another film in the scary old people subgenre that A24 has basically pioneered at this point, but never went all in on it. Instead, this movie's climax becomes pretty predictable and straightforward, which really clashes with the metaphorical approach from The Front Room's first two acts. This movie needed to pick a lane, but continued to switch around for the entire film. It makes for a very predictable, yet somewhat satisfying conclusion that feels like an M-E-S-S mess, baby! A guilty pleasure mess for me nonetheless. As an appreciator of So Bad It's Good cinema, I plan on revisiting Solange sometime in the future, but this will likely turn most people away. If you can laugh with and at this movie, you'll have a good time with it, but if you're looking for the next Hereditary or The Lighthouse, you definitely won't find it in the front room. There are a few projects that I've been covering since I started this channel back in 2019. One of them was Creep 3, the long-awaited third entry in the underground found footage franchise that I've been basically begging Mark Duplass and Patrick Bryce to finally make on here for almost 5 years. Well, 5 years on Sunday, that is. God, I love anniversaries. The bad news is that a new film isn't happening, but the good news is a TV series is already in the can made by the original creators. This was first announced a few months ago, but now we know where we'll be able to finally watch it. The series finds its home on Shudder and AMC Plus, releasing its first 2 episodes on November 15th. After that, a new episode will show up each Friday following the premiere. Don't get too excited though, because there's only going to be 6 episodes. I wish there was going to be more, but maybe this is a quality over quantity situation. I'll take it. Titled The Creep Tapes, you might be able to guess what this one is going to be about if you remember the ending of the first movie. It's revealed then that this sort of nameless creep, played by Mark Duplass, has been going after people for years now, with the shot of a bunch of different tapes featuring creepy titles. This series will finally show us what is on those godforsaken tapes. I'm dying to see Peach Fuzz again in all his glory. I really hope he does the haphazard song again. That might be the most uncomfortable scene in a movie ever. God, I love it. My tootsies are stinky and I need a tubby time, baby. Let's dive into this weird ish again here soon. I'll be covering each episode upon its release because I think I have to. This series is just too good. I need my juicy fruit. When I first heard that Blumhouse was remaking Speak No Evil, a Danish film from 2022, it came across as a money-grabbing, pointless remake that would Americanize an underrated foreign hit. This happens all the time, unfortunately, whenever an international horror movie makes waves, and usually the remake results here in the States are lackluster at best. One of my all-time favorite found-footage horror movies is Wreck or Record, about a group of firefighters and civilians trapped in an apartment building with demonic zombies. The film was remade less than a year later into Quarantine, a near shot-for-shot remake where the only difference is the language being spoken is English. It just makes no sense to watch that movie when it really offers absolutely nothing new to the already established equation. The Blumhouse Speak No Evil, however, does add a lot to this particular story by taking a major shift in the film's final act and focusing a little more on its characters. I don't think I liked it better than the original, but I really appreciate this film for not making the same movie again and still being effective in its own right. I think certain themes are more prevalent in this version than the original, even if they had to sacrifice the brutality of the 2022 film. Before we go any further, I have to get into spoilers with this one. It's impossible to compare and contrast these two films without getting into the two very different endings for our characters and why I really appreciate both paths. Go watch both of these films and then come on back. Spoilers ahead, you have been warned. 2022's Speak No Evil ends with a shocking and upsetting sequence that feels longer than any of the uncomfortable moments you experienced prior. To sum it up, Patrick and Karen cut off Agnes's tongue in this version and stone her parents to death in a ditch. It's an incredibly bleak ending that made me simultaneously love and hate the film. It's a clinical look at serial killers who hunt meager folks they can easily take advantage of. I appreciate how dark it is, but I have no interest in rewatching it for the exact same reason. James Watkins' version offers a new reason to rewatch by examining our lead killer under a different lens. James McAvoy's portrayal of Patrick fits more in line with the faults of toxic masculinity. Although a lot of his quirks are often chalked up to cultural differences, just like in the original flick, this movie is able to expand upon that, which admittedly makes it feel more like a movie made in Western culture. I can already see people disliking this one for that reason, but there are worse offenders. I'd rather watch this again than Quarantine any day of the week. I love how this film was able to dive into Patrick's backstory, telling us about how he was abused as a child, therefore he has become an abuser today. It's an upsetting, vicious circle that we're able to see unfold in real time, especially with how this film ends. Very poetic. Although the original is a massive shock with cultural undertones, this movie is a better character examination in my humble opinion. Everyone fills out a certain role in this one that I'd like a little better than the original. Kira, for example, feels like a brainwashed victim, and Ben finds confidence in himself to save his family. You don't get these kind of arcs in the original, which is why that bleak ending hits you like a train. This almost feels like a sequel in that regard by thankfully showing us a different outcome because of our characters going through different arcs. After being being burned by so many remakes that were simply a waste of time, I'm glad that Speak No Evil isn't on that list. This was a solid thriller with poetic moments that were carefully crafted. I still give the original film the edge for being twice as terrifying as this film, but I enjoyed taking a closer look at these characters in this film to truly understand their inner workings. It's also a pulse-pounding thriller with uncomfortable moments that will leave you on the edge of your seat even if you haven't seen the original, so I highly recommend it. This is a rare Blumhouse W that should be celebrated. I think we can all agree that this was better than Imaginary at least, right? We got a few sporadic updates for Terrifier 3 this week that I'm hyped to get into. Between popcorn buckets and a ton of new merch, Art the Clown is proving his horror icon status with how excited fans are to see him back on the big screen. Now Art the Clown will be a playable character in Call of Duty, looking like Mark Cuban at a child's birthday party. Yikes. The Operator Bundle includes a Terrifier weapon blueprint, a Miles County Killer weapon blueprint, and a bunch of other perks like a new charm and loading screen. It's sick to see things like this as it only propels Terrifier's image into the mainstream even more than it already has. Speaking of that, Terrifier franchise creator Damien Leone has doubled down on keeping his movies above the R rating in a brand new interview. The writer-director talks about how a studio wanted to reboot Terrifier but reduce the amount of gore to achieve the R rating to essentially make more money. This was obviously never the plan in Leone's head, which is why this new film has once again gone the indie route. It's one of the many reasons that I have so much respect for Leone and this franchise which never compromises. Art the Clown is going to be vicious as hell no matter what's at stake.
No matter what!
We also got a new shot of Art from Terrifier 3 in his cute Santa hat wielding an axe. This appears to be that same setting from the trailer in a suburban home with Christmas lights hanging up on the walls. I'm guessing this is from the third act where Art inevitably comes after the remaining Shaw family members and rips them to pieces. I think we'll see their organs adorning a Christmas tree in this one, like stringed popcorn. Just saying that has me so excited for this movie, man. We don't have to wait too much longer now as the film arrives in less than a month on October 11th. I'll be seeing it in theaters more times than I'm willing to admit. I'm so excited! Before I sign off, I'd like to ask you all to subscribe to my gaming channel GullGotha. To be a little transparent for a moment, it's kind of impossible to make a living just on a horror channel like this unless you're dead meat who has a series that blows up. So I really need this gaming channel to hit 1,000 subscribers before the end of spooky season. I would really appreciate it if you guys would go subscribe to that page. If you're not into gaming content though, it's no big deal. Thank you to everyone who has already checked it out and subscribed. What update from today's video had you the most excited? Leave me something about it in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching this brand new video, and as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.